Reporting from Vanderbilt Beach, Florida. It's that time of the year again for everyone to start exercising and get within the heat. As you can see behind me, this is a prime location for that. And we're going to discuss how the heat affects your body while you exercise. Now let's take a little time to learn how the human body deals with excess body heat during exercise. There are 4 factors in which this occurs, all of which combine to thermoregulate and protect against overheating. First factor is radiation. Body gives off heat waves to the environment because all objects in the environment are usually cooler temperatured than the body. The second factor is conduction. The skin attracting cooler air is an example of conduction. The third factor is convection. The effectiveness of heat loss by conduction depends on how rapidly air near body exchanges after it becomes warm. Example of this is breezy wind outside or even a fan inside of the bedroom. The heat loss increases in both these circumstances, and vice versa. If there's no heat loss, if there's no breezy wind or any of those, there will be no heat loss occurring. The fourth factor in heat stress is evaporation. This is the most important physiological defense mechanism against overheating. Transfer heat from inside the body to outside. In response to heat stress, the body's 2 to 4 million sweat glands secrete large quantities of saline. Cooling occurs when sweat reaches the skin and water evaporates. A myth that everyone believes in is cooling occurs once you start sweating. That is false. Once the sweat begins to evaporate, cooling will occur over the body. One thing we must always maintain in our mind living in Southwest Florida is heat loss and high humidity. Sweat evaporation from the skin is based on these 3 factors. Surface exposure to the environment. Example of this would be wearing a sweater when it's high humidity. You're going to sweat more, you're going to get rid of more water. And in turn, you're going to keep keep heat inside of your body instead of letting it release, thus cooling down the body. The second factor is temperature and relative humidity. Relative humidity exerts the greatest impact on the effectiveness of evaporation during heat loss. Third factor is convection air currents around the body. We talked about this earlier. This is the wind and the breeze that accelerate evaporation and cooling. However, it could be counterproductive because too much will equal hypothermia. Maintaining proper circulation in your body is essential to giving oxygen to those muscles. 2 factors in circulation and heat is oxygen must increase to action muscles. Because this is an aerobic exercise, those muscles work off of oxygen energy transports. Thus, oxygen must increase during the exercise. The second factor is peripheral blood flow must increase. Blood flow must get to the peripherals in order to exchange the waste products. And finally, what you want to prevent your body to go through is dehydration. Dehydration causes sweating and peripheral blood flow to decrease, thus limiting or making thermoregulation difficult and interrupting proper circulation of your body. Lastly, it affects your heart rate by making it increase and allowing fatigue to set in. A prime example of people working out in the sun is right behind me. Let's go take a closer look at how heat is affecting his body. This location, this individual has chosen to work out, but not only will he receive rays from the sun, also the sun will reflect off of the water, thus producing more heat inside of his body. As of right now, one of the factors we discussed earlier was radiation and how the body gives off heat waves to the environment, to all objects that are cooler than the body itself. Right now, as you look around him, you have the plants, the surface, the wood in the background. His body is giving off heat to those sources because their internal temperature is cooler than his. Americano. As he continues to work out, increasing the heat inside of his body, his skin is starting to look for cooler air to bring in to cool down his body, perhaps from that nestled little ocean in the backside. Who knows? Maybe it's from the breeze coming in. These are two primary examples of conduction and convection. Americano. About a minute or two into his workout, he's beginning to sweat. His 2 to 4 million sweat glands are now opening up and the saline is soaking through. The evaporation process is occurring, thus cooling down his body. One of the key factors we had discussed about heat loss and high humidity was surface exposure to the environment. He has chosen good attire for this workout. Americano. Another factor in heat loss and high humidity is convection air currents around the body. Right now there's a slight breeze in the air, which is making the evaporation process go more smoothly, cooling down his body. As you see right now, this young man has a cramp, which is a heat-related cramp. And more likely it's happened during times of prolonged exercise in the heat. What it is a cramp in your muscle tightens, or you have involuntary spasms in those muscles. Right now, what's suggested for him to do is to immediately stop exercising, seek hydration. Get hydrated, get the muscle, get the energy that muscle needs back into the body, back into that muscle, get the oxygen flow and everything going upright and normal. During this exercise, was there any point in time that you felt like you had stopped sweating even though your intensity stayed the same?
Yeah, I stopped sweating.
He stopped sweating. This right here is a good prime example of heat exhaustion. When you get flushed skin or you stop sweating even though your intensity stays the same or raises, that could be heat exhaustion. What we want to do in this circumstance is immediately terminate the exercise, get them hydrated, get them to rest, and replenish those liquids with electrolytes, with Gatorade, things of that nature. One final thing to keep in mind when it comes to heat-related illnesses is the first symptoms, the first signs of a heat-related illness, whether it be a heat cramp or heat exhaustion. You want to take all precautionary measures and ensure that they are hydrated, they are well rested, and they terminate the exercise. Because once it decreases, it increases to the next tier, and it gets more and more difficult to cure that heat-related illness. Reporting from Vanderbilt Beach, News Channel 2, RW News, I'm Ryan Witherspoon.